So I talk about fees all the time when it comes to investing, and we'll show you the exact numbers behind what this can do to you and why you should be watching this video. If you skip this video or fast track this video, you are going to be sorry forever. Trust me on that. I'm coming with good faith here, and I want to make sure that you understand this concept inside and out so that you don't get screwed by the system, because the system's ready to screw you if you're not paying attention. I don't want you to get bent over the wrong way. So here you go. When it comes to investing, there's this thing called fees. The fees that cost to invest your money. And so the system is not designed necessarily to give you a free pass, invest your money and grow compound interest. If you think that, you're very naive. There is a wealth generating machine that gives you the ability to, but if you don't know what you're doing, you're gonna get screwed really, really fast. So why you wanna listen to this video is because of the fees associated with investing. Specifically, two of them I wanna point out. So the first one is called a transaction fee, and the second one is called an expense ratio. There's a lot of fees out there. I highly suggest you to learn all of these fees, in fact, and there's numerous fees that you can find, whether you go to your statement disclosures or you go to your investment funds and actually look into the fees. But there's also different levels of fees, and it's a very complex subject. But what I want to start off by showing you is an actual graphic, as you can see on the screen right now, that shows you the levels of investing and where the fees actually occur. So obviously, as you see at the very top, is there's a broker level fee, and then there's an account level fee, and then there's an investment level fee. And so if you aren't aware of all the fees at all these various levels, you will get screwed, I guarantee it. And when I say screwed, I mean millions of dollars. Millions of dollars that you could have had that you decided not to because you didn't educate yourself. And this is just one of many different things in the financial world that people are losing money on all the time, but they don't feel it out of their pockets, so they go on with their little average life, and then they wonder why they can't ever build real wealth. It's because you don't listen to me. And if you actually pay attention to what I say, I will give you the exact blueprint to wealth. It's not a coincidence I went from negative $8,000 net worth all the way up to $2.6 million in a decade. I know what I'm doing, to say the least. I help my students do this all the time. And if you just simply pay attention, you're going to get good results. So the very first fee I want to talk about is the transaction fee. This fee is at the investment fund level. So when you're looking at the graphic on the screen, we have the broker level, remember, we have the account level, and we also have the investment product level. So the investment product could be like index fund, it could be an ETF, it could be a mutual fund, or something like that. So it would be an investment level product, and of those investment level products, what you would have is a transaction fee. And this transaction fee often happens because you're buying the wrong fund on the wrong platform. Let me explain. If you're at Fidelity, for example, and you hear me talking about a lot of Vanguard funds, and somebody comes on my IG live and they say, hey, what S&P 500 fund would you invest in? And I say VFIAX, for example, I am referencing the Vanguard platform. And it's not intentional, but this is why it depends all the time, and why I don't usually give out specific ticker symbols online, is because people don't understand these concepts, and it's such a big topic. So those that actually watch my content and actually deep dive into my content and understand the ins and outs of everything, you're going to get good answers because I actually can explain this stuff. But on IG lives or in passing or in a DM or on a tweet, you're not always going to get the full context of the situation, and you shouldn't, because that's why finance is complicated. That's why one size doesn't fit all, and that's why you need to listen up and not get frustrated when I say it depends. I say that for good reason, because I want to protect you. So let's say I talk about VFIAX, the S&P 500 index fund on Vanguard's platform, and you decide you're really smart and you want to go invest in Fidelity and use the same fund. Well, my friend, you're going to get screwed. Every time you purchase that, there's a $75 transaction fee. I don't know about you, but $75 seems really, really expensive, especially when you're buying in increments of, let's call it $250 or $500. You can do the math. 75 divided by that would be the percentage that you're being charged every single time. The compounded effect of those fees over the long haul are substantial. I'm going to show you an exact graphic as to why you should be very careful with this. That's just one example of one fee. Same goes when the reverse end. If I'm with Vanguard in my situation and I decide to go buy a Fidelity fund on a Vanguard platform, let's call it FZROX, which is the equivalent of VTSAX, I will get charged $75. Therefore, I always want to stay at home when I'm investing. And if you're investing with an ETF, usually these transaction fees don't occur. However, I want you to have a best practice of just invest at home. Meaning, if I'm with Fidelity, I'm using Fidelity funds. If I'm with Vanguard, I'm using Vanguard funds. It makes your life a lot simpler, and it also avoids the potential for a transaction fee, which is going to wreck your life. I guarantee it. So if you're actually paying $75 per transaction, you are going to lose wealth at a rapid rate. So I will show you on the screen in a second, but here's a really good conversion tool of the exact equivalents at each platform. So Vanguard versus Fidelity, you can go up and down this list and see which equivalent is at each broker. So I want you to study this chart and make sure you understand the differences the cost of each one, et cetera, et cetera. The other thing is when we're talking about cost, we're not talking about the price of the actual fund. If an S&P 500 fund is costing you $300 to buy, that's irrelevant. We want total capital invested. We don't really care because we can buy fractionally. So we don't really care how expensive the fund is to buy itself. We're concerned with the actual cost associated with it, which is the second fee I'm going to talk about right now, the expense ratio. That is the cost to buy the actual fund. The actual price of the fund is, like I said, irrelevant. I don't want you to worry about that because you can buy in fractional terms, and all it is total capital invested. That's important. So whether it's 1.5 shares, 2.5 shares, 2.75 shares, 3 shares even, does not matter. That just means total capital is what you have in there. The expense ratio, which is made up of, let's call it the 12B1 fee, management fees, etc. And don't worry about the actual breakdown of the expense ratio. Just look for the expense ratio. That fee is one of the most dangerous fees out there. And if you aren't paying attention, it's going to wipe you clean very quickly. There's a lot of data on this, guys, that the index is going to outpace actively managed mutual funds at 95% success rate over a 20-year period. So that means if I have a big group of mutual funds, actively managed mutual funds that have a high expense ratio, let's call it 75 basis points, 0.75%, all the way up to 100 basis points, 1%, and so on and so forth, I can almost guarantee that if I just pick the index fund, which is a very simple, broad, diversified, let's call it S&P 500, total market fund, total international fund, whatever that is, actively managed mutual funds over a 20-year period are going to lose to the index 95% of the time. Let me put that in perspective. You have just as good of odds to win at a casino as you would picking the right actively managed mutual fund, which gets me into thematic investing. A lot of this stuff comes up with thematic investing. Everybody wants to buy the latest AI ETF, the latest crypto ETF, the latest blah, 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 blah ETF. The thing is, while I'm not denying the future of those different things like crypto or AI or anything like that, I know there's use cases for all of that. I understand that concept and I fully am on board with that. But if you're buying an ETF, the chances are there's a lot of hype in the industry and a lot of these things are going to die out. Just like we saw with the .com era, we saw with the marijuana era, we've seen with the crypto era already. Now it's making a comeback. We've seen with the AI already. A lot of these things will hype up. There's a bubble of valuation with a lot of these companies. A lot of these guys falter. And the reason is this is a new world. There's new technology, new advancements, new innovation, and a lot of these guys fizzle out really quickly. So when you're buying like an ETF or a mutual fund that's a thematic type of fund or actively managed, you got to be really careful because they're going to charge a hefty price. Like I said, usually 75 basis points all the way up to 100 basis points. And with that comes usually a disaster. Not to mention, you have to hold, let's call it 20 years to actually know if you won or lost. 20 years go by. A lot of things go into this conversation that a lot of people leave out. Number one is, can you actually hold the whole entire 20-year period? I will argue you can't. I don't care who you are. You're going to see that fund falter below the index and you're going to reference back to this video and you're going to say, well, maybe he was right. Maybe the index is going to beat this. There's going to be doubt in your mind. I can guarantee it. That is a very hard thing to do from an investor psychology perspective over a 20-year period. It's very unlikely you hold the right fund for 20 years and see if it's the right one that actually wins or is the, let's call it the top 5%. Sure, there's going to be mutual funds that outpace the market. We understand that. But to be in and out and or selecting the right one is such a disaster of a game. And there's so much data to back that you are going to be a big, big fat loser. I don't want you to be a big, big fat loser. I want you to be a big, big fat winner that you can eat and take care of your family and hit all your financial goals. And there's no reason just to invest in something because it has a bigger return. We want to match our investment products within our investment accounts at the broker with our financial goals that we have. That is the point of investing. People forget that with greed. They want more, and they forget the whole point of what they're doing. So the expense ratio, guys, is obviously a significant concern. A lot of Fidelity funds, a lot of Vanguard funds, a lot of Charles Schwab funds are below 10 basis points. Like most of my funds are 4 basis points or lower. Some are 0%. So you might say, what's the catch to the 0%? That's just a marketing technique to get you into their platform so that you spend money elsewhere. That's all it is. Put simply, like Fidelity's zero-based funds, put them on the screen. There's 4 of them specifically. The reason they're offering that is competition. Hey, we want to lure you from Vanguard. We want to lure you from Charles Schwab or somewhere else. We want to get you into our system because we know we can market you in other different ways. We can get you a financial advisor within the firm. We can get you into automated investing. We can get you in robo investing. And there's fees associated with that stuff too, which is the whole reason why they give the zero-based funds, because they want to lure you in. Anytime something is free, there's an agenda behind that free item to get you into a bigger paid item. That's just the reality of marketing. And the sooner you're aware of that fact, the better off you're going to be. So with this being said, I will show you on the screen exactly how much fees are costing you. And this is just a small example. So this could be even bigger for you if you're a high income earner or you invest a lot of money. All right, so everybody's situation is going to be different, but let's just say you invest $2,000 a month in total across all of your different accounts, $2,000 a month. month, and you return about 10% historical market returns. Now, obviously, the whole point of actively managed mutual funds is to make more than the 10% or more than the average market. We understand that. However, there is a fun stat to share with you that the average market and the average investor are vastly different. The average market over the last 20 years is at 9.7% returns. On the flip side, the average investor, which is you, which is me, which is the average person out there, was at 3.6% returns. The difference is millions of dollars over a 20-year, 30-year period. So to understand that you don't have to be smarter than the market, you just have to be in the market for a long time. The quicker you're going to get wealth. So if you have $24,000 invested total in a year, $2,000 a month, like we talked about, let's say 10% returns, and you have a 2% all-in fee. This could be like the transaction fees adding up. This could be the expense ratio. This could be all the fees I haven't listed yet. For 30 years, here's how much you're going to pay in fees. So the final investment value with the example I just used is going to be $4.3 million. However, the fees that you're going to pay associated with this investment to get $4.3 million is going to be $1.4 million in fees, giving you a real net investment value of $2.9 million, and that's before taxes, meaning that you paid over 1/3 of your portfolio in fees, 33%. When I talk about this stuff, you need to listen up because I am helping you in a massive, massive way destroy the industry, go against the industry that's not here to serve you. I'm here to serve you. I'm here to educate you, and I'm here to help you. And the quicker you understand that my whole purpose is to expose the industry, the quicker you're going to build wealth and the quicker that you're going to hit all your financial goals. So with that being said, that is a breakdown of fees. And that's obviously a pretty scary reality for a lot of people, but most people are never going to feel this, like I said, because this is an opportunity cost loss. This is not coming out of your pocket. That $1.4 million I explained is not coming directly out of your pocket, or at least you don't feel that, because this is what happens. It comes out of your investment accounts, which most people never check the actual transactions that occur within investment accounts. They just think, oh, well, I'm just investing. That's the only transaction that's actually happening. The reality is these fees are being deducted from your account value at all times. And the compounded effect of those fees over the long haul is going to be 1.4 million. So you might not feel it necessarily, but this is what you're spending and you're opting to spend this. So when I say spend money on education, spend $5,000, spend $10,000, spend $15,000 to learn this stuff, I mean that, because you're literally spending less than 1% of what you're opting to pay for. So a lot of people are like, well, I'll just let my financial advisor do it. I'll let them, I only pay them 1%. It doesn't seem like a lot. Yes, it is. It's a ton of money. 1% is substantial. In fact, 1% versus 2% in the example we just used is still $776,000 in fees. So that is a choice you have to make. And if you want to make that, be my guest. But I am warning you right now to be aware of fees, to be understanding of transaction fees specifically and expense ratios, and apply this to your situation in a big, big way. So with that being said, I will see you next Monday.